biggest agency merger in history just closed, and the layoffs are already starting. Meanwhile, AI is rewriting how agencies work, but almost nobody has updated their contracts to reflect it. Two very different stories, the same underlying problem. The business model is shifting and most agencies are still running last year's playbook. I'm Kurt Schmidt, and this is the Agency Brief. All right, let's get into it. Omnicom posted its first earnings since closing the IPG acquisition, and there's a lot to unpack here. PR Week reported that Omnicom's numbers are out, and they look solid on the surface. Revenue is up, the deal is done. The press release reads like a victory lap. But then Video Week reported on the other side of that coin. Omnicom is already preparing further cuts as it streamlines the combined businesses. That's the word they used, streamlines. We all know what that means. Layoffs, redundancies, offices closing. People finding out on a Tuesday morning that their role has been eliminated. None of this is surprising. I've said it before and I'll keep saying it. The real story with any major agency merger is never the deal. It's the integration. And the integration is a polite word for figuring out which people, which offices, and which client relationships are redundant. That process is brutal, and it always takes longer and costs more than the spreadsheet ever could have predicted. Digiday put out a really useful piece this week called In Graphic Detail. Looking at the state of the marketing agency sector, Digiday put out a really useful piece this week called In Graphic Detail. Looking at the state of the marketing agency sector, revenue figures from Omnicom, Publicis, and Havas, along with new employment stats. And the picture it paints is one of a sector that's growing at the top in terms of revenue, but shedding people at the same time. That's not a coincidence. That's the model. Holding companies are betting that technology, AI, automation, and consolidation will let them do more with fewer humans. Now, if you're running a mid-size agency, here's why you should care about this even if you never compete directly with Omnicom. First, talent. Every time a holding company does a round of cuts, experienced people hit the market. Some of them are phenomenal. Some of them have only ever worked inside a massive bureaucracy and have no idea how to operate in a 15 to 20 person shop. You need to know the difference. This is a hiring opportunity, but only if you're selective. Second, clients. When a big agency group is in integration mode, service quality dips. It just does. The account lead your client loved gets reassigned or let go. The team gets reshuffled. Deliverables slow down. That's your window. If you've been wanting to go after clients who are currently at a holding company agency, the next 12 to 18 months are the time to do it. Not by bad-mouthing Omnicom, but by being incredibly easy to work with while they're distracted. Third, and this is the one I think about the most, this merger is a massive bet on scale. Omnicom is saying bigger is better. I fundamentally disagree with that premise for most of the market. The best agencies I work with are tight, focused, and opinionated about who they serve. They don't need to be everything to everyone. They need to be the obvious choice for a specific kind of client with a specific kind of problem. Omnicom getting bigger doesn't threaten that. It actually reinforces that, because the bigger these holding companies get, the more generic their offerings become, and the more room there is for well-positioned, independent agencies to win on specificity and care. Storyboard 18 also ran an overview this week of the world's largest media agencies: WPP, Omnicom Media, Publicis, Dentsu, and Havas. It's a useful landscape piece, and the takeaway is that these groups are all converging on basically the same pitch. Data plus AI, scale equals results. When everyone's saying the same thing, nobody's saying anything. And that's the opening for independents who actually have a point of view. And then there's a consolidation pipeline beyond Omnicom. Manifest Media reported that Publicis Group and Havas are leading the acquisition count in 2025. Publicis and Havas are buying aggressively. So you've got Omnicom digesting IPG, Publicis on a shopping spree, and Havas doing the same. The holding companies are playing Pac-Man with each other and with mid-size agencies. If you're an agency founder and you've ever thought about the idea of being acquired, pay attention. Valuations for well-positioned agencies with recurring revenue and clean books are holding up. But you need to go in with your eyes open. I've seen too many founders sell because the number sounds great and then spend 2 miserable years inside an organization that doesn't understand or value what made their agency special in the first place. The check clears, but the thing you built disappears. That's the trade-off we're thinking about very carefully. So that's the big story. But here's where it gets interesting for the day-to-day reality of running an agency. Adweek published a piece this week with a headline that should be pinned to every agency owner's wall. AI is moving faster than agency contracts. The article cites survey data showing that AI is already reshaping agency workflows. People are using it. Teams are building with it. It's in the production pipeline. But most contracts' pricing models and governance policies haven't been updated to reflect any of that. This is a massive gap, and it's one I see constantly. An agency starts using AI to speed up content production or generate first drafts or automate QA. Great. But the contract with the client still says deliverables are priced based on estimated hours. So what happens? Either the agency eats the efficiency gain and the client never knows, or the client finds out and says, hey, why am I paying for 40 hours when AI did it in 5? Neither of those outcomes is good. The first one means you're leaving money on the table, and the second one means you're in a trust conversation you were not prepared for. The fix isn't complicated, but it does require intention. You need to move towards value-based pricing, or at a minimum, you need contract language that accounts for how work gets done, not just for how long it takes. If your SOW still defines scope in terms of hours and headcount, you are setting yourself up for an awkward conversation in the next 6 months. I guarantee it. And look, I get that contracts are boring. Nobody starts an agency because they love redlining MSAs. But this is one of those unsexy things that separates agencies that thrive from agencies that get squeezed. The agencies that figure out their AI pricing model are going to capture margin that everyone else is giving away. Speaking of AI in practice, Adweek also reported that Department, the digital agency, is powering up its global content studio with Adobe AI tools. They're building what they call Department Studios, designed to handle the growing volume of content that brands need across channels. This is a smart move, and it illustrates a pattern I've been watching. The agencies that are winning with AI aren't just bolting it onto existing services. They're restructuring around it. They're building new offerings. They're creating dedicated production pipelines that blend human creativity with AI speed. If you're a smaller agency, you don't need to go and build a global content studio, but you should be asking yourself what your version of this looks like. Maybe it's an AI-assisted design sprint. Maybe it's an automated first draft process for content marketing. Maybe it's using AI for competitive research and strategy. Whatever it is, the move is to productize it. Give it a name. Put it on your website. Make it part of your... Deliberately, it signals something important. It says you're a partner who is invested in how work gets done, not just on what gets delivered. Now, let's shift gears for a second. Marketing Week ran 2 pieces this week about proprietary media, and they're worth paying attention to even if you're not in the media buying space. The first piece had brands opening up about what they described as the skullduggery of proprietary media, and that's a direct quote from the article, skullduggery. These are advertisers talking about their experiences with media agencies that push proprietary inventory, meaning the media agency owns or at least has a financial stake in it, without being fully transparent about the arrangement. The second piece reported that the ISBA, the advertising trade body in the UK, has launched guidance on how brands should approach proprietary media, focusing on transparency, governance, and... Now, if you're running an independent agency that doesn't do media buying, you might think this doesn't apply to you. But it does, indirectly. Every time a holding company gets caught with its hand in the cookie jar on media transparency, it erodes trust in agencies broadly. Clients get more skeptical, procurement gets more aggressive, and audits, well, they get more detailed. That trickles down to every agency relationship, including yours. The flip side is that this is another area where independents can differentiate. If you are advertising clients on media and you don't have a proprietary inventory to push, say that loudly. Transparency as a positioning tool is underrated. Most agencies assume clients know they're acting in the client's best interest. They don't assume that. Not anymore. You have to prove it, and being explicit about your independence and your lack of conflicts is a simple way to do that. And one more thing before I wrap up. AdExchanger published a piece about what they're calling the end of good enough data in performance marketing. The argument is that for at least a decade, performance marketing rewarded speed and scale. Spend efficiently, optimize continuously, and don't ask too many questions about the data underneath it. And now that's changing. Brands want defensible performance. They want to know that the data is clean and the attribution is real and the results actually hold up under scrutiny. If you run a performance-oriented agency, this is a trend you need to get ahead of. The agencies that built their reputation on volume and speed are going to struggle when clients start asking harder questions about data quality and measurement methodology. The agencies that invested in rigorous analytics that can explain their data sources and defend their attribution models, those are the ones that will earn the next round of contracts. This isn't a someday problem, it's a right now problem. All right, here's your action item for the week. Pull up one active client contract, just one. Read the scope section and ask yourself 2 questions. Number 1, does this scope reflect how we actually do the work today, including AI tools we're using? And number 2, if the client asks me tomorrow how we're using AI in their account, would I have a clear and confident answer? If the answer to either of those is no, block 30 minutes this week to draft some updated language. You don't need a lawyer for the first pass. You need clarity on what you're delivering and how you're delivering it and how you're pricing it. Get that down on paper and then run it by your attorney. The agencies that update their contracts proactively are the ones that control the conversation. The ones that wait are going to have it forced on them by a client that read that Adweek article and started asking too many questions. That's it for this week. If you found this useful, subscribe wherever you're listening and share it with an agency owner who could use it. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week.